So there's a couple concepts, things. One of them came to me. One of them I kind of it had come to me before, but then it was kind of validated through one of the people I follow on Twitter. They were talking about, but the first thing was just something I was thinking about the fragility of human consciousness and how you can't just blast open the floodgates and show everybody the truth, because it would be overwhelming to their senses. It'd just be too much. And so there's a lot of people that are really impatient about, and I mean, let's face it, the people who've been awake for a while, it's frustrating. You're waiting all this time, you're waiting, and it's like watching water boil. You just can't. It takes a really long time, and for this critical mass to happen so that things can get lifted to a higher level. And I guess, one of the things Maharishi was all about was trying to achieve this critical mass. And they had this concept of, this getting just the right amount of people meditating, and it would lift the consciousness of the whole society. And I do believe that's true, and I believe that's important. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so I was thinking about this, and the tighter the control, the tighter people are controlled in their own minds. I call it a concrete head. People that have a concrete head, they're actually very fragile, and so they will fight very, very hard to defend their position, and rightly so, right? Because, I mean, let's face it, if you take someone out of their comfort zone, I mean, let's use the example, if you took me up in an airplane. I'm kind of scared of heights. Well, I'm not kind of, I am scared of heights. I don't like being up high. And if you tried to push me out of that plane, we're going to have a fight. I'm going to fight like hell. Now, to you, jumping out of the plane might be exhilarating and fun and, carefree, and, you get a big rush out of it. It's the best thing that ever happened to your life. But to me, it would be like the worst thing happening. It would be like death. It'd be like facing my own death. And I'm going to fight. I'm going to go into survival mode. I'm going to go into fight or flight, and I'm going to fight you. And you're going to have to throw me out that door. You're going to have to overpower me and throw me out the door. Well, that's where we're at with people. That's why we have to understand that we can't just, wrestle everybody into submission. What we're doing is we're giving people the potential to come to the conclusions on their own. I mean, what is more powerful than that, right? The proverbial saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's where we're at. We're at this nexus where we can decide to drink the water or not. And there are going to be people, no matter how much evidence there is, no matter how much truth comes out, they are not going to get with the program. It's just not going to happen. And it's not a condemnation. See, we think in terms of, consciousness or God, or it being this entity that's going to judge. And that's just not the case. It's not judgmental. It's non-judgmental. It's so many things, it's incomprehensible what it is, but it's not judgment. That's a man-made device. That's a control device. Like we were talking about the system controllers. They use things like judgment to keep people in the box. Giving people the opportunity to step out on their own. I mean, that's the real beauty, right? I mean, isn't that when you're a parent, people out there who are parents, isn't that what you really want for your children? For them to be able to step out with confidence on their own? And, sure, they're going to have some fear, they're going to have some trepidation, but they're going to step out and they're going to make their own way. You can't do it for them. You don't want to do it for them. It's an energy thing. There's only so much. Well, our Heavenly Father, God, Source, wants us to step out on our own, wants us to find it on our own. It's a really beautiful thing. So we can't expect we can't expect people to just wake up. And, we can't expect, if the forces are forces of truth and they're forces of justice and light and God, representing the Godhead, representing source, they're never going to do that to people. People are like, oh, they need to just round up all these criminals and throw them in jail. And, I would love to see Hillary Clinton go to jail. I would love to see Barack Obama go to jail. I'd love to see all these deep state players get justice. But it has to play itself out. They have to ensnare themselves in the trap, because otherwise it looks like a dictatorship. It looks like fascism. So all the things they're accusing Trump of being a dictator and being a fascist and all these things, it makes it validate their point. Anyway, it has to be arrived at organically. So, because like I said, again, consciousness is fragile. Human consciousness is fragile. And that's been used to our detriment for a long time. They've fractured our consciousness with fear and all the violence, trauma-based mind control. They fractured our consciousness, and that's how we're being controlled. So we're coming back to wholeness. We're coming back to oneness, but it's going to take time, and it's going to be a process. It's going to be an individual process of awakening. All right.